High School Girl has always been a show that seemed right up my alley. I'm a hefty consumer of feel-good slice-of-life anime, and having it chronicle the early days of video gaming seemed fairly interesting, but as I was watching it, I couldn't help but feel frustrated. It was one of those experiences where its potential is constantly floating in front of my eyes, but never quite manages to reach it. I can tell it has the capacity to be great, but it's constantly being held back. The show leaves a bad first impression. I'm not someone who sees CG and immediately discredits the entire show as being bad, but in this case it ends up being fairly unexpressive and awkward to look at. Maybe they were making use of the fact that CG in anime is often compared to video game animation in order to fit with that theme, but it ends up working more to its detriment than anything else. This especially works against them because they decided to make one of the main characters completely mute, which when paired with the inexpressiveness of the models, leads to a much more limited and less compelling character. As this is a slice-of-life romance show, its quality is mostly determined by the characters and their relationships and less about the plot, which is nearly entirely episodic snapshots of the characters playing in the arcade. So how'd they do? In my opinion, the two main characters, Haruo and Ono, are generally unlikable and I couldn't find their relationship endearing. Neither of them have a substantive personality and feel incomplete. Haruo is obsessed with games. Nearly all of his dialogue consists of talking about the current gaming market or monologues while playing games. However, the depth of knowledge and opinions about games that he has are generally surface level and underwhelming compared to what you might expect from someone who is obsessive to the degree that he is. He merely serves as a timeline device which exposes the current and upcoming releases. The commentary he offers is generally surface level as well, especially for someone who's supposedly of his skill level. Every now and then he'll comment on certain techniques or playstyles, such as in episode 1 where he explains things like guile tunneling and arcade play etiquette, but these are the exception, not the norm. Haruo is described by his friend Totoro as being someone who possesses a kind of charisma, despite his general below averageness, but this is yet to be translated properly through his behavior. He gets a bit of a pass for his loud one-note immaturity during his elementary school years, but his lack of progression through the show's runtime leaves me disappointed. His opposite, Ono, isn't much better. As mentioned before, she's a complete mute. She doesn't speak one line during the entire runtime and lacks expressive capabilities. While this could be chalked up to her extremely sheltered lifestyle, it severely contrasts her extremely violent nature towards Haruo. Ono may be a tsundere, but she lacks all the charm that comes with a tsundere character, which is the contrast between her normal self and how she behaves around the person she likes. Since her baseline personality doesn't exist, she just comes off as someone who has a violent personality most of the time. Pretty much every interaction she has with Haruo boils down to Haruo and her playing games, Haruo being impressed by her skills, and then Ono beating him up in real life. There's exactly 2 scenes in which we learn more about Ono's home life, and even then they end up being the exact same thing. Every other piece of information we learn about her comes from secondhand observation by other characters, which amalgamate into a blob of, she may be quiet, but she's perfect. She's simply not an interesting character, and her relationship with Haruo fails to compel me. One of the strongest aspects of the show is its progression of time. With each step forward, the show generally becomes better. After episode 3, we're shot forward to the end of Haruo's second year at middle school, and after episode 9, we're shot forward again to the beginning of his high school years. A lot of slice-of-life anime becomes stuck in an infinite loop of single school year snapshots and rarely ever show the characters age or progress through life. Though while High School Girl does push the characters forward, it fails to adequately develop the characters as they age. Haruo remains Haruo, maintaining his gaming obsession and only becoming slightly quieter with every year. Ono remains Ono. She apparently cares about Haruo, but doesn't reach any new levels of expression or ever unlock the ability to speak. However, the major upsides of this progression of time is the introduction of the third main character, Hidaka. My main issue with Haruo's game exposition is that it falls mostly on deaf ears. He's preaching to a choir. Ono is a gamer. She already knows all the things he's talking about, and the audience is likely to also be gamers, or at least be more familiar with them than the average person ever would be. However, Hidaka is a normal girl. She spends her days going to school, helping around the house, and studying. She doesn't have many hobbies and certainly nothing to do with the world of video games. However, it's through her interactions with Haruo, her polar opposite, that her eyes become open to a world she didn't know existed. She becomes attracted to Haruo because of his obsession with games, something which she has never experienced in her life. Suddenly, all the monologues about the current releases and the superficial knowledge about gaming takes a new light because we actually get to watch someone become captivated by the world of video games that Haruo loves so much. At first she prefers to only watch him play from behind, but as the series progresses and her feelings become stronger, she has a much more active approach in getting Haruo to notice her, eventually becoming his second rival. She's the only character in the show to receive this amount of development and is my personal favorite aspect of it. Despite all of my complaints and my best efforts to dislike this show, I have to admit something. There are quiet moments when Haruo and Ono are alone and simply enjoying each other's company, not playing any games or yelling or even talking, and these moments work perfectly. The extreme juxtaposition compared to the entire rest of the show somehow manages to pull me in and care about their relationship. Both the second half of episode 3 and the final 2 episodes are extremely strong, and this is where my frustration lies, because every so often the show will hit me with these scenes that despite everything else manage to leave me captivated, and then once they're over I have to look back at all the underdeveloped moments which preceded and all I can think about is wasted potential. If Ono or Haruo compelled me more or had real development, I'm certain that the payoff would have led me thinking that this is a masterpiece. Unfortunately, this isn't the case, and I'm left with bittersweet and conflicted feelings about the show itself. I can't call this show bad, but it pales in comparison to what could have been.